I'm strapped to a table. Oh gosh, where am I?
Hello, Brenton. Welcome to the asylum.
Nathan, please unstrap me. Let's get out of here.
Sorry, Brenton. We're going to have to cure you by having you watch Return to Oz.
Now dig on this.
Hey guys!
Oh, hi.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Movie Banter. You know, that podcast where me, that dude Brenton, and that other guy sitting across the table from me and staring at me strangely, Nathan.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
We talk about movies that are 20 years or older. 20 years!
35 years.
And we tell you, our lovely listeners, whether those films are still worth watching today, and more importantly, if they are worth inviting all your mates around on a Thursday evening, popping a movie on, and just having a lovely, lovely movie night. Nathan.
Hello.
You okay there, buddy?
No, not really, Brenton. Like, I had such a good time last week, Brenton. We had your sister, we had your sister Courtney on, you know. We had a jolly good viewing party with Wizard of Oz in anticipation to build up to this movie we're talking about today, Return to Oz.
Yeah, Halloween special.
Our Halloween special, you know, we've done such classics as The Exorcist and Road Games. Last Halloween was Road Games, Brenton, just to put it into reference for you.
What a fun time that
After
was.
Road Games, we can only go up in the movie quality, can't we, Brenton?
It can always be worse.
It can always be worse.
This week proved that correct. Some would say, I don't know, we haven't rated this movie yet because Nathan, we're about to discuss.
You introduce this show every week saying we review old movies, old classics, right? That's our number one job. It's the only fucking criteria we have in this show. And here you have, amongst the bloody All About Eves and about all the bloody Dolls trilogies and all that shit, here you snuck in a DVD copy of Return to Oz, Brenton.
Yeah, because it was released in 1985 and it was directed by Walter Murch, written by Walter Murch as well. And I just want to list some of Walter Murch's credentials before we get into this, because he was referred to by Roger Ebert as the most respected film editor and sound designer in the modern cinema. He's worked on such films as Apocalypse Now, The Godfather 1, 2, and 3, American Graffiti, The Conversation, and The English Patient. He's won 3 Academy Awards as well, with 9 nominations.
3-time Academy Award winner is directing this.
Exactly. The real reason I picked this, though, is because, you know, obviously it's a Halloween special, and, you know, what's better for Halloween in cinema than spooky movies? Return to Oz was a film that I saw when I was very young. It scarred me, so they say.
More than your actual scars.
Precisely, Nathan. And this movie, it really took a while for me to get over it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it since that first viewing. That first viewing, I didn't even watch the thing the whole way through. I remember that I got to a certain stage that I'll talk about in spoilers, and we had to turn it off.
Wow.
And skip it to the end.
I'm trying to recall if I've seen this whole movie the whole way through as well. I don't think I have. I think as a child, I think I saw it in chunks here and there over the years, but I never got to do a full sitting. Yeah.
Well, the thing was, we had to skip it to the end to see if things, you know, got better or turned out okay, so that, you know, I would be okay. And yeah, that's all I remember of it. I remember specifically there was certain things in this film at the start of it that just gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I had nightmares for days. So yeah, that's the context for our listeners as to why this was selected. Because why not go back and see if this film still gives us the heebie-jeebies? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. Let's see if we get scared this Halloween. So bloody put on your costume, Brenton, and sit down, because I'm going to pitch you this movie.
I don't want to dress up for this now.
Here's your Dorothy Gale wig. Here's your dress. Get ready.
Oh, fucking hell.
Can you pitch me the movie? So, Return to Oz. It's 1985, and I'm probably a Walt Disney exec who's very excited that he has the IP rights to this franchise. So, the Oz books, there's 13 of them, or something like that, right? There's not just the wonderful Wizard of Oz written in 1900. We got a fuck ton of sequels, Brenton. So, being Disney, the company that owns this IP, what else would we do but, of course, milk it until, you know, that cash cow is dead? So, that's what we're gonna do. With Return to Oz, Brenton, like the title suggests, Dorothy Gale, Brenton, it's probably months after the original Wizard of Oz.
I think they say 6 months. It's been 6 months
Brilliant.
since the tornado.
There you go. It's been 6 months since the tornado. That's the only one Kansas got. And Dorothy's, you know, she's missing Oz like nothing else. So she's like, I want to go back, but I don't know how, and no one bloody believes me, because guess what? This was a fever dream in the first movie. By the way, spoiler alert for the Wizard of Oz this whole episode. If you haven't seen it, get out.
Thanks for clarifying that, Nathan.
Yeah, including like the guy at Disney I'm pitching this to. If you haven't seen Wizard of Oz, get out of here too.
Get out of the office,
Get
right?
out of the
now.
office.
It's like, I'm your boss. Get the fuck out.
Get out. Watch Wizard of Oz. What are you doing here? What are you doing in the film industry not seeing Wizard of Oz? All right. So Dorothy, she wants to go back. So because, you know, she keeps on touting out about this fantasy place that was clearly in her imagination in the first movie, her aunt is like, you know what? We're going to take you to a full-fledged mental asylum. And Dorothy's like, okay, sure. And in the midst of her trying to get out of it, she finds herself transported once again to Oz, Brenton. But this is not the Oz that you and I remember from last week.
What happened to it?
Oh God, isn't that the dramatic question of the film? Because the Emerald City has been dismantled, all of its gems have been taken away, and Dorothy's got to retrieve the gems and save her friends from the Gnome King that lives in the far distant edge of lands beyond Oz.
That sounds like a good pitch, dude. Like that sounds like there's something for everyone. You know, like there seems to be more conflict than there was, say, in The Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely. That was a big criticism. You and I said there was very little conflict in The Wizard of Oz. Brenton, this movie, there's conflict galore. But does that translate to a good film? We'll get into it. And also there's a tonal shift. We'll announce that as well. You know, these are more closely aligned to the books. So they are a little bit darker in that sense. There's no sing-song. This isn't a musical, Brenton. We aren't going to be tapping our feet in this one.
Oh, well, that's strange. But it's a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, you said.
Yeah, you can make sequels to musicals and have to have other music in it, you know?
Yeah, I'm just, as an executive, I'm just sitting here and I'm going, well, you're suggesting making a sequel to one of the greatest films ever made.
I mean, they're making a Space Jam too.
and your suggestion to make this film is to kind of go, you know, away from what made the first film so successful.
Yeah, audiences don't want to see the same shit again. So, you know, let's do something different.
Yeah, I hear you. Give it its own identity. You know what? Here's a bunch of money.
Thank you.
Go get all the peeps you need and make me a good movie.
Fantastic.
I'm sensing some Oscar buzz around this as well.
Mate.
So let's get going.
Oh, here we go. So, Return to Oz, Brenton.
Where do we start?
Oh my God.
Like, where do you start?
Why? Why are we here? Why?
Okay, I know how to start this. I'll start with some of my opinions.
Actually, can I start with a quote?
Of course you can.
Oh, thank you. There's a line in this movie where a moose is falling from the sky and he lands on the ground, you know, face first into some rocks, and he gets up. And the moose says, "That was an awful experience." Brenton, this line from the movie resonates with my exact feelings towards the Return to Oz.
Was it that awful though? Was it like that?
I'm not fucking with you. In all 127 episodes we've done, this has been the biggest hurdle of a movie to finish.
Oh yeah. See, I disagree. Like in terms of all the movies we've reviewed, this was a hurdle to a certain extent, but it wasn't one of the worst. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of the worst. That it was still entertaining enough that I had to see it through.
I watched this over 4 sittings. I literally couldn't do it.
Whoa.
Like I would get through like
Whoa.
maybe 25-minute chunks, and I had to stop.
Look, I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I understand where you're coming from, but I just don't think like it's no Road Games. You know what I mean? Like Road Games was a tough one. That was.
I guess. Is it worse than Emerald City and Cats? Probably not. But like, it's as far as like watchability, as far as like, I don't know, it was hard, Brett. I'm not gonna lie with you, it was hard.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had that experience. Look, I feel sorry for the people that went into this and like, you know, say us, like, you know, we watched The Wizard of Oz last week. We talked at length about The Wizard of Oz last week, and you know that it still held up. You know, it was still worth watching because it was like one of the greatest movies ever made. Yada yada yada. Yes, it has issues, whatever, but like still watch it because it's worth understanding.
Yeah, and it's so iconic. Like everything.
Yeah,
from it's
and
iconic.
get into it. Like you'll still get something out from watching it, and then you go to this, and like obviously, like you said in your pitch, and I suggested that they kind of went away from all that. They were like, you know what, that movie was made in 1939. You know, we're in a new place in history. Yeah, exactly. And like, so they should have. They should have probably gone, you know what, we can't recreate that. We can't recreate those performances. No. Let's have new characters, new stories, and let's try and stay closer to the books and go for that. Nathan, when this movie starts, it's like dead out. It's dead set like a horror movie. Like it's
from
like,
the get-go.
it's a horror movie.
I don't even think this is a children's horror movie. I think this is just a straight up horror film.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. If The Wizard of Oz was about Dorothy's dream, I think this movie is about Dorothy's nightmare.
I would agree. I would totally agree with that. Okay. But so it sets itself as a horror movie. And so I as the audience, start watching it as a horror movie in this city. And as a child as well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And then there's another tonal shift that happens where like things just go batshit insane. Like it's not necessarily scary anymore. It's just fucking weird,
It's just
wacky,
so weird.
and disturbing.
Have you seen Labyrinth?
All in one. No.
It's a little bit like Labyrinth in that sense, where it starts off, you think you know
But
it's...
is Labyrinth good?
No. Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No.
Whoa. Okay, cool.
But yeah, you're right. It just goes into... You know what? For a horror film as well, it kind of still acts kiddie. Like, there's still bits where they're trying to chat. Characters act like they're in a kid's movie, or like the script kind of suggests things that's very kiddie. Like, it's all over the shop in that sense. Like, did you find that the tone was shifting a lot in this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. So it's like a horror film up to a certain extent. And then there's a point that they're like, the filmmakers were probably like, oh, we probably made this too dark for a little bit. So let's try and kidify it and make like that thing that we were making scary a bit more lighthearted and fun. But the thing in question is so disturbing in the first place that like when you make it lighthearted and fun, it's just confusing.
Yeah. You're just perplexed.
Yeah. So let's technically talk through this movie,
Okay.
right? From a technical perspective, I'm going to start with the production design, the art design, costuming, sets, the whole shebang. Right? Like, which really goes hand in hand with the tone of what it's going for, right? Mate, The Wizard of Oz was disturbing to a certain extent when you considered there was a man dressed up as a Tin Man, a man dressed up as a scarecrow, and a man dressed up as a lion. But there were still human enough characters that it made sense. The characters in this one, man, are fucking... There's nothing human about these guys. They're just...
Because I know why they fucked it up. Because the original 1939 movie, that interpretation of the Tin Man and the lion and all that, like that, it's so iconic, it's almost replaced the iconography of the books. Because in this movie, it's a literal copy and paste of the book designs. So when you see the Tin Man in this movie, he looks exactly as he was illustrated in those books, which I argue isn't a very good design. No.
I would agree with that, but it's not even that about like say like we're using the Tin Man as an example of a character that we're taking from the old and bringing it into the new and using the adaptation and going for that.
As far as the new characters go, they look directly translated from the books.
That's fair enough. I'm down for new adaptations of these characters. I'm fine with that. The point is that they've still got to like have humanistic qualities. They've still got to have a face that expresses and moves so that you can relate to it as an audience member.
Yeah.
These guys are just fucked. Like, it's like Floops. It's like the guys from Spy Kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like the spies that have been like transformed into Floops Fluglies that are like always...
that's right, with the high-pitched voices. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you play them backwards and they're always like, Floop is a madman, help us, save us. It's like that. They don't express, they can't express, and they look like terrified the whole time.
It's
bizarre.
Just so deranged. Like, because there are supporting cast from the first movie, which was a lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. Instead, you got a sentient jack-o'-lantern that's kind of got a body. You've got a chicken, just like a plain old chicken, and then you've got the head of a moose, and then you've also got this kind of like the boss from Robots.
Yeah.
You know, the inventor from Robots, essentially that guy. And they have no relationships with each other.
No, let alone the protagonist, because they're led by a protagonist who I just hate.
Oh my God.
Like, I hate her so much. I can't stand her.
Like, who in Disney cast a first-time actress into this role? Like, this is her debut. And yes, she has to follow Judy Garland. So like, but there is nothing in common with this Dorothy versus Judy Garland's Dorothy. Like, in character, traits, expression, age, like she's just... I've genuinely gone to like shitty primary school musicals and seen better acting from their lead actors than in this movie.
Whoa. Nathan, that is throwing some serious shade. This sounds like one of the child performances on the show that we've reviewed. But it sounds like that this could be the straw that broke the camel's...
I don't know if I hate it. I don't know. I think the one I hate the most is still that large kid from Goonies. But
it's so funny because like I don't blame the actor necessarily. I don't think it's a bad performance.
No, it's a horrendous script she's given.
I just don't think the script's good, and I don't think what the character's given to do is just shit.
Chemistry, and like that's the worst thing as well. She keeps on harping on about like finding her friends, but it's just so disingenuous. She's just like she's so blank as she's kind of expressing it. She goes like you can almost see the director and like probably her mum behind the camera kind of just waving at her saying like bigger eyes and like all that kind of stuff, because she just looks so confused. And it sucks because like in the same way that Judy Garland suffered for it, this girl apparently had an injury on set as well, so it's like I just don't know what to do with Dorothy actresses. But in saying that, like she's just so bland. And like, and by the way, I wasn't in love with Dorothy from the original Wizard of Oz. I thought that character was pretty vacant in that first movie.
Yeah, totally.
And do you think in this one one, you could explore the PTSD in her, like, genuinely believing that she went to this fictional place. She returns to it. But even when she finally, like, comes back to it after 6 months of being told that she can't, she's no emotion to it. She's like, oh, fuck yeah, I was right.
At the end of the day, it comes back to the fact that, like, you don't like any of these characters.
No
let alone
one.
The protagonist, let alone the antagonist. You don't like anyone. You don't like any of the side characters. You don't like the new versions of the old characters.
No.
You don't like none of it. Right? And none of those characters seem to like each other either.
No.
They just kind of say that.
And it's so weird because they keep on saying, oh, my old friend, or I believe in you. Like, they have, like, lines that you think would establish that, but the performance doesn't carry it across as well.
No.
It's like when you get two primary school kids, I've just had a fight, to, like, make up and like, apologize to each other. And they're like, I'm sorry, Timmy. I do like you. Yes, I like you too, Nathan. We will be friends again. It's like that. Like, they're saying the words, but there's nothing to underpin it.
Yeah. On the back of that, I would say that because we haven't even gotten to the biggest problem yet, which I think is that thematically there's nothing going on.
No.
Like we like you said, they try to establish that maybe there'd be like some PTSD or some cause and effect of having gone somewhere. No one believes in it. You kind of question yourself maybe and think you're mad.
Yeah, the start of the film, like, shows how deranged Dorothy is. Like, it starts off with her being treated completely insane that she thought her family was in this magical land of Oz. Like, and she goes to an asylum. I'm like, that's probably what would happen. Like, if she genuinely believed this. I like that stuff.
But then we get to Oz and it just throws it all out the window, and then we go into this weird conflict that's happening in Oz at the moment, and the whole place is destroyed. There's nothing, like, everything that was there that makes her have like these reactions of joy and you know, wanting to go back are all gone, and so she has to fight to get the place back that she loves. You know what I mean? Like, she has to you know, I guess return to Oz. But then, like, that theme does not carry through the movie though. It's just, when I'm not sure why we're doing things. I get why, like, I get the arc of where we're trying to go, in the sense of, like, we're trying to bring it all back and make it whimsical and fun again. But it comes back to the fact it doesn't seem like anyone gives a shit.
No, like, no one gives a shit. And also, this film tries to consistently have its cake and eat it, because the first film says Oz is not a real place. Like, it is so blatantly clear this is a fever dream she had between the tornado hit. So, like, and this next movie, even though she returns there, the second movie also says this is still a fever dream. This is, like, something she's still making up, like, especially with the end of the movie. So in saying that, I don't know why, if we know this place is a fictional dream world that she's in, what are the stakes? What are the stakes?
Yeah.
Like, we don't believe in any of this. Like, and it's so weird that this is the story, out of, like, the 13 sequels that were involved with this, they choose the one that kind of attacks Oz. Like, imagine if in Harry Potter, that Harry came back, right? And he's like, it is bloody Dorothy Gellner. He's like walking around bloody Privet Drive going, oh, Hogwarts is the real place. I was there over the summer. And everyone's like, shush, Harry. Like, imagine if that happened and then Harry, like, suddenly magically went back to Hogwarts in the second year and, like, it'd been, like, decimated and Harry has to try and, like, build back Hogwarts. You know what I mean?
It sounds like an interesting story, but again, you have to, like, make it interesting. You have to have the stakes. You have to have the conflict there. You have to have the character, like, in danger. Like, and the character is in danger and whatnot, but, like, again, the character doesn't seem to give a shit. And everyone else around her is just like, whatever. I was look, I'm gonna give this film some praise and say the things it does well. This setup at the start, this movie is still terrifying to me. Like, the start of this movie is fucking scary.
I think this is the scariest film we reviewed.
Yeah.
I was more scared in this than Exorcist. I'm not fucking with you,
Me
genuinely.
too.
I jumped.
The way this opens,
I jumped in this.
and the way it's edited and the way it's put together at the start. You're going through this insane asylum as like with a little girl. You have, like, you know, like, people being held down against their will. You get to Oz, and, like, the first, like, real setup of Oz of going to the Emerald City is terrifying, and it incorporates the sound design from the earlier parts in the asylum to the creatures that are, like, in this new area. So that's all good idea, but then, like, who is this movie for?
It feels like it's made for maybe, like, early teens who want to watch a kid's film, but they want to kind of grow up as well. But, like, even then,
So why did they cast, like, a 10-year-old as, like, the
that's
lead?
a great question.
Like, why isn't it?
That's
You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like,
who's it for?
I honestly don't know. It's obviously but even if it's for Oz fans of the books, it still fucks up the books. So it's like it's not for not for the diehard Oz fans. Like, and for people who love the first movie, this has nothing in common with that first movie. So you think then what it's trying to do is that it's trying to be a standalone film. If it's completely cutting itself off from Wizard and it's not trying to be like the books, it's its own thing. But here's the thing: if the movie's trying to be its own thing, it can't, because the whole bloody movie is Dorothy going, "Wait a minute, that's where my house landed. Wait a minute, this is the line from the first movie." It's her consistently going, "Wait a minute, this is the Yellow Brick Road." So it relies on that reference. And if you don't feel reverence for it, imagine if you never saw Wizard of Oz. This would make even less sense to you. You know what I mean? Which I feel is, like, not that far from the sense that we have from this. So, like, it's ridiculous. And like, I will go into compliments because
go for it, dude.
There are things
because we're ripping into this.
And it's so easy. And, like, it is so easy to pick on Wizard of Oz. But there are things I loved. I loved the score. I thought the music was really trying. I actually really loved it. I thought that was a big old plus.
I don't have much to add except I don't really remember it, to be honest, like the score. Like,
Well, there you
because obviously there was a lot distracting me from like
Obviously,
getting into it.
To
But,
the film's credit, because it
continue, though.
relies on practical effects, on the most part, they hold up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
This film was nominated, I'm pretty sure, for the Academy Award. This got an Oscar nomination for visual effects.
And you can see the green screen outline. I'll forgive it because it's the 80s, but like...
Oh yeah, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me in terms of practical effects is the actual creature designs and the fact that most of their faces don't move. There's no articulation.
And
There's
it's
no...
weird that Disney did this. Disney knows these lessons.
That's
they
right.
invented it.
You want characters that are expressive, that you can see inside, because there could be humanity to these characters. One, it's not explored. Like, really, again, it just comes back to the characters for me in this movie. Because if we're comparing it to the original story and the way that film...
Scarecrow can't stop pulling stupid faces that first movie.
Yeah, that's right. Like, maybe, look, it's a bit too obvious, and maybe it's a bit too much, and maybe it's a bit too expressive, but I'd rather that than have nothing. You know what I mean? And having nothing makes things creepy and weird and uncomfortable, especially when they're characters that you're meant to love and believe that there's a kindred spirit, that there's a friendship between them and a love between
There's
them.
absolutely
There's just nothing.
You know what as well? Like, sure, you can say maybe the set design's okay, but I swear this is so low budget. This just reeks of low budget.
Totally.
Like, I'm like, this is discount Wizard of Oz. Like,
Wonderful Land of Oz, more like Wonderful Land of fucking, like, let's go to exterior shots in some fucking place in the middle of nowhere
jeez.
and build some shitty set on it.
It's
gosh.
just so... It baffles me this wasn't direct to DVD because it has all the aesthetics of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also weird for an IP this big, they never got a name actor for this, like proper big name actor. Like you think but I guess they would have shopped it around and everyone would have said no.
Yeah. But hey, at the same time, dude, there's some fucking disturbing shit in this movie.
And you know what announced that? So Brenton and I both watched this on Disney Plus because it's got it. And I love that at the start it opened with contains tobacco depictions. I saw that and I was giggling and I'm like, here we go. Yeah, boy. Like, this is it. And it's funny because I want to kind of... Here's the thing. If the filmmakers were going to make a dark, fucked up version of Wizard of Oz, I'm all for that. I have been saying for years, I want to see a resurgent in iconic children's stories having like this fucked up, like hard, like holy shit, this is messed up, like Willy Wonka is a horror film, all that kind of stuff. I want that.
I'm down for that as well. Yeah.
I think
that's not the issue.
any of Roald Dahl's works you could do it for. There's so many things. Yes, all of it. You could do like a really fucked up version of these worlds because if you think about them, all of them are a little bit messed up. So I am all for that. The fact that that director bloke, editor bloke convinced Disney to do this, I support that. Well done. But if you're gonna do that, I feel like there could have been so many easy creative decisions you could have done by aging up Dorothy, by removing a lot of the fluff that's in this film and have her deal with the psychological trauma of returning to a place we thought was imaginary, that she thought was in a dream. I think it's actually not that hard to really go the full way and actually make this a really proper adult project, and I think they should have done that.
I agree, dude. Where I think the problem lies, though, is not so much in terms of like things like the age and whatnot. Like, obviously, Dorothy's journey is the most important thing that needs to be addressed. It needs to be a journey through this movie, but also all the other characters need to have journeys. None of them have journeys.
Any of them have arcs.
The antagonists don't have journeys. Like, no one's really doing anything for a reason. And so if you don't have that, if you don't have the supports built underneath the project you're working on, you might put all this work into visual effects, into making a world and a tone, but it's just all for nothing. Like I said, there's some scary shit in this movie. It's fucking scary.
It is
at
scary.
points.
It is like proper as an adult man. I'm like, fuck this.
But at the same time, it should have that, and also the underlying themes should not necessarily give you a heartwarming experience, but should give you an experience where you want these characters to succeed against this disturbing world and to see them overcome it and bring back the good that was in this place. And dude, who cares?
You know what's funny as well? Because like narratively, that's so similar to Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
This movie's almost...
It is very C.S. Lewis.
This movie's almost a direct ripoff in the sense of like the original characters come back, the world's in ruin, they got to kind of save it again. Like, they're these revered kind of mythic figures that they got to kind of restore it. But at least in Prince Caspian, it actually has arcs. And also the main character's matured. Dorothy's still the same as she was even before she left to go to Oz in the first movie. She's still that same in this movie. So she just like the bloody gates open and she just fucked up and tripped over and just has her head in mud right now,
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Here's the thing. I'm not going to recommend this movie.
Yeah, let's rate it.
I can't recommend it. I can't recommend it. But here's the thing. At the same time, you should still YouTube it and just see that this thing exists. You should just like see some bits and be like, holy fuck, they actually did this. Like, it's a piece of cinematic history as far as I'm concerned that this occurred. And people have a cult following for this. People actually like this. Like,
people like lots of shit, mate. Like, that doesn't surprise
that's
me.
fair enough. That's a good point. And like, that's not in defense of the film, but I think that like you need to understand this, like, to believe it.
But if you love Oz, this can only ruin it, you know?
Don't watch this from the start to the end. But just watch it to understand what went wrong, what happened, and to maybe scare yourself a bit. Maybe have a bit of a horrific experience, you know?
But like, even if you want to be scared, there are plenty of good classic horror films you can watch just to be scared. That's like this feels that very niche kind of kink, for lack of a better word, of you seeing this childhood story being kind of turned on its head in a very dark, fucked up way. I feel like there are horror films based on like, you know, Little Red Riding Hood and that kind of stuff that are of a similar vein in that sense.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But none of them are really, I don't know, they've not really permeated the zeitgeist like this one. So yeah, my thumbs are down, mate. On like,
Yeah.
And it's funny because like, I'm sure there are kids out there who got fucked up by this as the kids. They watch this like, Jesus, this is traumatic. And like, and they almost have a fondness for the movie because of that. They're like, oh, this was like my first like real shit the pants moment. And like, I can see why that relationship might be special. But also, that's not Return of Oz's fault. That's just pure coincidence that movie happened to be the one real first fucked up thing that you saw at age like 5 or whatever it was. So that's not the movie. That's just life. So like, there are better movies that are actually good that will also give you that. If you want to fuck up a 5-year-old and you're the parent choosing which film can I bloody like spook my kid for life with, don't pick this one.
Look, I will say that the reason there are original aspects to this of fucking your child up if you want to fuck your child up.
Which, by the way, bad parenting. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do it. Because I would say that the thing that is original about this is what you said, that it's a twist on something you say love or like was whimsical or was a joyous experience. So for me, what makes it even more fucked up as a kid is having watched The Wizard of Oz countless times, as we were saying last week on the show, and then sitting down to watch this and to be like, oh no, everything's wrong in this land, which is scary in the first place. Like as a kid, that's like, what the fuck? This was like the place that like everything was kind of like happy, and yeah, there was scary things like the witch and whatnot, but things were still like consistent, like that it was very colorful. It was such a colorful movie. And then this just subverts that. And as a kid, like, I don't think a kid can handle it. You're just like, holy fuck. And then like on top of that, it's such a drastic tonal shift that like as a kid, like it really fucks you up. So I can't really name another franchise that has done that. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of something that's done the U-turn.
The Alice in Wonderland sequel that came out in 2016, Alice with the Looking Glass, it's a little bit like that as well, where Alice goes back and the world's even more fucked up.
That's a sequel to a movie that remade, you know, like did a live action remake of the Disney animation.
And also, Alice is like 17 in that movie.
Totally. But I'd say tonally it was pretty similar to like the animation to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like it was still...
Yeah,
like,
I can't think of any property that's done a real hard turn at this. Like, I'm sure it must exist. This can't be the only one. Or maybe this is the only one and then Hollywood's learned their lesson. They're like, maybe let's not do that.
I think like obviously it's one of the more famous ones.
You could argue Batman, where you think you compare like the Adam West one to the Tim Burton one.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you could even say like, I'd say there's a pretty big tonal shift between Batman, like the original Michael Keaton Batman, to the second film with like Danny DeVito and the Penguin.
Yeah.
Like there's a massive tonal shift there. And then each sequel on that builds into going more wacky. Like if you watch the original Batman and you watch Batman and Robin, which is the last in those films,
they're complete opposites.
There's a huge tonal shift.
So yeah, and also look what happened there. People didn't exactly warm to it, did they?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Get it? Because Mr. Freeze froze them.
So funny. Go back to twins, Arnold. Yeah, so...
take your freeze gun, though.
That'd be great, just him and Danny. Oh my god, they're both in Batman movies. I never noticed that before.
Totally.
I never knew that.
Totally.
Oh, that'd be great. Penguin and Mr. Freeze together again. That's what I need.
Could you imagine if they were actually twins in the Batman universe?
God.
Like Cobblepot and Mr. Freeze were... Victor Freeze were actually twins.
That's incredible.
They figured it out one day and...
I'm all for that.
What
just
a time.
like, we're twins! And they're just like bloody driving around like, oh.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Oh, I hate that movie. I really do.
Oh, dude, it's so bad.
So terrible. I know, and I know it's famously terrible, but like even now, I sometimes see the old clip of it appear, and I'm like, oh, it really is that bad? Like it's just,
it's a fun first 10 minutes of like this is horrible, but like it's not a fun bad movie to watch. You get to a point you're like, oh no.
I love George Clooney these days because he's just so embarrassed. He's just consistently like, yeah, I did that shit.
Maybe making another Spy Kids reference, maybe he should just like whenever Batman and Robin's mentioned, he just grabs that little
black thing.
and like puts it over his eyes. Oh, we're talking about this, are we?
Why? Maybe Spy Kids could be the sequel to Batman and Robin. Like maybe like Bruce Wayne just became the president, and so he's just like trying to like segue away from that Batman life. So he's just...
I mean, tonally they're pretty similar.
Oh,
so
jeez.
I'm down for that. I still haven't seen that fucking fourth Spy Kids movie with
don't.
like, is it
Yeah, it's
Jessica
Jessica
Alba or whatever?
They bring him back.
Like,
they bring
and it
back
was
Judy
like-
and Carmen.
Wasn't there like a 4D one? It was 4D as well, Nick. You had like a little sticker sheet that you had to scratch
It's a
and
sniff.
fucking
Yeah.
sniff or whatever. This is such a great thing. We're keeping the scratch and sniff thing alive from last week.
Jeez.
So
yeah,
you know,
what a
there
that's a
you go.
callback.
What a time.
Oh, Robert Rodriguez, what are you doing? There's a Netflix series, isn't there? They're making like an animated Spy Kids. Isn't that a thing?
I don't know where Spy Kids is at these days, but
They're in the room. Quick, dodge them.
maybe they should do a reboot of Spy Kids, and they just like bring back Judy and Carmen, and they like make it really fucked up, like
Oh,
you know,
Christ, they return
like
to
even more
Oz it.
fucked up than the first Spy Kids with floops. Like yeah, like gosh, that kind of would not work, but like.
You'd want to see it, wouldn't you?
Spy Kids 1 is already fucked up enough with like all the floops, flulies, and the thumbs and things.
Yeah.
And if you made that dark, oh no.
I feel like the second one is more darker than the first. I feel like as far as that franchise goes, you got like normal, dark, and then you got fucking wacky for 3D, and then even wackier for 4D. So like, it's a bit like the Batman franchise. What we're trying to say is that the Batman and Spy Kids franchises are essentially the same.
Yeah.
So what the Spy Kids franchise needs is that Chris Nolan reboot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for that. Why not? Get 2 more kids, throw them in some Spy gear.
Give him the Joker.
What if you had like a bunch of like cameos from like people that had played like spies in film? Like Pierce Brosnan just rocks up at a point.
Great.
Like, could you imagine? Just like and they're all just there, but they're the Spy Kids. You know what I mean? And they're leading the charge. Daniel Craig rocks up at a point. It's like, hey guys. And then like bloody Matt Damon rocks up, and they're like, hey,
It's Bourne. He's gonna kill us with a pencil.
hey,
Hey, they do like the click things.
yeah, hey. The kids
finger
kids
guns.
watching that this is made for are like, we have no idea the context for all these fucking cameos or who they are, but you know, the kids are cool at least, and the parents are all like, hey, keeping me entertained. Hey.
There we go. Hey.
Let's talk about some spoilers.
You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh, Nathan's on Struggle Street.
I
Let's do
really
it.
am. It's these episodes, man. They don't come along often, but it's just where we just got dog shit movie, and like, because the reason I do this show is because I generally like watching old classic films that are excellent, and we can propagate them, and we can be like, hey, you want to go through an old library? This is a thing to watch.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. But everything we can't review can't be a 10 out of 10 classic. You know what I mean?
Okay, it'd make us redundant, wouldn't it? Just
So yeah, we have to scrape the bottom of the barrel sometimes, and like this is still a famous film. This has garnered a cult following, was kind of infamous at the time, and still has like a mixed reception, dude. So like people still like this movie. So the fact we're saying we don't like it, people might not understand that, which is hilarious.
So let's talk about The Asylum. Because, like, this is fucked up.
Okay.
There are many things that are fucked up, but this is really fucked up. So, first up, what's with the chick? What's with the chick that rescues her? What's her story, Brenton?
Oh, we're starting with the other little girl. Okay, I don't know.
Because it's the
I
other
don't
little
know what
girl,
the
the
dealio-
princess in the mirror?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. She rocks up in the real world. Like her power, like I've got no idea. It's not consistent in the film. She rocks up in the real world, but she's not really there. She saves her from the asylum, gets her out, takes her to the Oz.
Dorothy doesn't have that moment where she's like, oh, I know you. You're the one who saved me.
What was her name? Oswalda or
Ozma,
something?
I
like
think.
Ozma. Oh god, what a terrible name. Don't. Sorry to all the listeners out there
Called
whose kid's
Ozma.
name is Ozma, but not a great name, methinks.
Also, why would her aunt take her there? Like, of all, like clearly this place is no good, right? Like,
Well, look, hey, Uncle Henry and Aunt. I would say Aunt Petunia, but that's
I was
not
going to
it.
say like Aunt Peru or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
They're all the
aunts.
same.
Which aunt is which? Aunt May? Who is it?
That'd be a great battle royale. Or like all the aunts like facing off, just like.
Like fucking Aunt May from Spider-Man 2 with the umbrella behind Doc Ock's back. Shame on you.
Just whacking on the forehead. Should rip up the aunt from this movie, I tell you what.
Mate, she should have been in the last scene of this movie. Like,
Rosemary
crazy.
Harris, she's a scary woman.
She is.
Yeah. She swam to that island with Uncle Ben.
Strong swimmer. Anyway.
Oh, this is such a
So we're in this asylum, and I'm just gonna bring up the comparison that scares me. Still watching this today.
Yeah.
As soon as that, I've never experienced this before.
I
Like,
hope
you know
so.
when you experience nostalgia in Star Wars or whatever, and it takes you back, and it's a good feeling. I've never experienced something where, like, because I've watched other films that I was scared of as a kid, and you go back and it's like, you know, you've overcome that fear as an adult. So this was the opposite. It took me straight back to when I was a kid, and I couldn't overcome it for a moment. I was like, this is terrifying, and I seized up, and I was like, oh gosh, this is doing things to me, and
Get
I
out the
don't like it.
defibrillator.
As soon as that fucking table started squeaking, oh
Jeez.
man, it took me back, and not in a good way. I was like, holy shit. I was like, it's squeaking in the wheels. I saw the wheel design. I was like, oh no. And then the wheel is rocked up. When that first wheeler rocks around the corner when she's like seeing the rock cowardly lion, and it comes around and it's like their
Oh my
masks or
god.
whatever that
And
you
the
see
sound
at
effect
first.
that matches
Holy,
it's like
it's too
it's
much.
fucked up.
Squeaky wheels, weird creatures that like have awful like wheels or whatever, deformed like creepy face masks, followed by voices that are like hoarse voices. It's like Batman going ah, and then mixed with like the Joker going whoa. It is like a whole breed of insanity that no one is that no one is about.
They're horrifying. Like, yeah, they just like wheel about everywhere and they're just chasing them the whole time. It's like
You got to remember as well, they corner her in an alleyway. Like
They
they
do.
corner the fucking girl in
But
an
what would
alleyway.
they
and they're
do? Like, would they just like stomp on her with their wheels? Like, because they're obviously trying to.
Verbatim quote, they say they're going to rip her to pieces and throw those pieces in the dead desert or whatever it
Jesus.
is that turns the... They're going to rip her to pieces? What the
I
fuck?
don't know how they do that if their hands are wheels. Like, well, they're going to like roll over her limbs till they snap. Or
I reckon maybe they use their teeth because they got like normal human faces. This is the thing. They rip her apart.
yeah, like I jumped when I first saw the wheels. Like they're fucked up and like children shouldn't have to see these creatures, especially with the mask design. Yeah, but I was more scared than Mental Asylum,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. Like if I was a young person strapped in a bed and this doctor came up to me with this like fucking like smiley face of like a lobotomized machine and said like, oh, we're gonna like bloody do like electrotherapy on you, I'd be like, I'd be running for the hills, mate. Which is what she does.
Look, I hear you. That asylum is terrible, like for many reasons. But you have a little girl in there that's about to experience any procedure. Like, you know, have you ever been to the when you were a kid? Did you go to the dentist and the dentist treated you like that woman treats that girl?
No,
You know
it's
what I
like,
mean?
even for 1900, they don't do that. Like,
Props to the doctor for trying with the little girl to be like, hey, look, it's a face, and oh, you're not going to feel a thing, and it's going to be okay. You know, like he tries to calm the situation down. The fucking nurse.
and he's the only one who dies, by the way.
Yeah, poor guy.
He's the only one who actually fucking dies when it conveniently burns down. I'm like, okay, great. That was great script writing, wasn't it? Well done, everyone.
He ran in to save his machine.
Build another one. It's like, what an idiot. And like she's like the bloody like assistants in the little jail thing at the end, which is identical to the cage and like the mountain, and you're like, oh, this is all too neatly wrapped up. It's one of those things where like she'll get back and then the movie ends in like 2 minutes after she gets back and they have like 5 things to tie up.
Did you notice as well though that like obviously they try to do the stupid fucking thing of like well, it's not stupid, it works really well in The Wizard of Oz of like, oh hey, here's the guys in the, you know,
It was the people she knew all along.
and all right, so they do the same thing here, and there's only 2 characters they do it with because the rest are all fucking creepy animatronic weird.
She just sees like a scarecrow. She's like, that's where I got it from.
Yeah, the nurse is the witch in Oz, or the princess, or whatever the hell she is. She's a witch princess, I don't know. And then that doctor is the Gnome King.
Yes, he is the Gnome King, which is
He is the
Gnome King. And what's his deal? Because the conflict of the movie, at least narratively, is that like the Wizard of Oz or someone took the gems from the mountain.
No. The issue is no. I'm just correcting. I think the conflict of the movie is the friends are all fucking stoned and the scarecrow's been kidnapped.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about before that, because he's like, it's all about ownership of the
right.
emeralds, right? So like the royal family of Oz or whoever it is took the emeralds from the cave because like, oh, it's a cave, we can take fucking gems from it. They built the city with it. Then randomly, the Gnome King like years later is like, oh, maybe now's the time I'll claim them back on tax. So he decides to like take them from the city, put them back in the mountain, and everyone for some reason turns to stone because of it.
Well, wait. There's a lot of steps here that we're missing.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't really get the answers to. So not only that, but like there was no one ruling Oz presumably when the wizard rocked up and just assumed control.
Yeah.
But there was an heir who was
Just the most cliche royal family.
whose father was the king of Oz or some shit.
Yeah.
But he wasn't around when the wizard rock up. She was kidnapped by the witch, and she was like with the witch doing shit all. So then Dorothy comes to Oz. Wizard of Oz happens and whatever. Wizard fucks off out of there. Who knows where the wizard is now? And then Dorothy fucks off as well, and Scarecrow's now king. And then for some reason, the Gnome King gets the ruby slippers.
Oh yeah, because when Dorothy leaves at the end of Wizard of Oz, they just fall from the sky. That was the funniest shit.
Yeah.
I laughed at the whole movie. Was when like he fucking like puts his feet out from under his little robe and there's like the ruby slippers. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to do a little strut on them. Like
It was ridiculous. But yeah, that's how he gets his power to finally be like, I'm taking my emeralds back, bitch. Which I don't even know how he does, because we see that he's got a little minion over there.
Oh, I hated them. I hated the little rock faces, just like some bloody stop motion
yeah, it's
shit.
fucking stupid. Anyway, the wheelers are just there now. They're just there. They were always there apparently, but they're just there. That witch was doing shit all, but now she's doing
Who is
everything.
She's just a random witch. Like she's not north, south, east, or west.
I don't know. Well, okay. So we know there's the Witch of the East that died in Wizard of Oz. We know the Wicked Witch of the West, which dies in Wizard of Oz. We have Glinda, who's the Witch of the North, who's fucked off.
Yeah, no one knows what happened to Glinda in this movie.
And then you have, I presume that this witch, the princess, is the Witch of the
She
South.
must be the de facto one, yeah.
But then her tower's in Oz. Like, her tower's just chilling in Oz. So I don't know where was South. Or
And she's also so boring.
No, she's not. No, she's not. She's terrifying with her fucking heads.
God. I love the Hall of Heads, right? Like, that shit is
It's a good
horrifying.
idea.
Like, and also the set design for it's great.
Yeah.
Like, it works really well. And that scene where they all wake up and scream made me, like, jump. Like, I was like, fuck that.
Same. That scene was when I turned it off as a kid. When we
Oh,
had to turn
really?
it off when, like, it wasn't even when they all started screaming. It was when she started taking their heads off and doing all that. I was like,
Nah,
no,
this is the
fucked.
breaking point. Like, but you know what's really funny? So watching that scene, it made me really wish in Order of the Phoenix that we got the proper Department of Mysteries sequence from the books.
Oh, yeah.
Because
with the baby head.
they had something else a little similar like that in there, like where like Harry, Ron, and Hermione running around, like there's all these like fucked up rooms where like the Ministry's doing all these like fucked up magic experiments. Like I really wish we got that in Order of the Phoenix.
Dude, the brain room.
Oh yeah,
Like, how fucked up was that?
they have a room where it's like the solar system, but like the planet and like the planets like fucking about with the magic. Like there's some really cool shit. There's one where they're trying to like work out immortality or something like that, and there's like all these weird tokens. Like like there's really cool fucked up rooms in it, and I'm like,
and there's that awesome fight, like you said, like with the head thing, like with the time turner room, basically, and then like the guy's head gets caught back into
they're doing time travel on each other. It's like it's cool.
Oh gosh, and like, but it also explains the loophole of why we can't use the time turners in the future because they're all fucking destroyed, which you know, like, is just fixing it's just JK's way of
saying time travel's stupid in my books. Also, here's the cursed child.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So like seeing the Hall of Faces, I'm like, great. You know, do a Game of Thrones. Let's see this like all get fucked up.
Yeah, let's scar the kids for life.
Oh.
Yeah, let's.
But like, it's funny because it's so serious in that sense. But you got these horrifying sequences matched with the most tonally incongruous characters inside them. Like if you have this horrifying palace where she's trying to escape from this like headless woman, she then bumps into like a fucking moose who's just like, oh, I'm gonna be a flying machine. Like it just doesn't match, does it?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I thought the example you were going to bring up then was actually Jack Pumpkinhead. Like, why is he here? What does he do?
Also, what do any of them do? I get the moose, he flies, and the chicken lays an egg. But like, what do any of them do outside that? Like,
also, creepiest line of the movie was, "Can I call you mum?"
Oh Christ! Why? Why is that in the movie? Like,
oh my god!
By the way, there's so many creepy lines in this movie. Like, I can't.
The last thing on that witch scene. The thing that's most terrifying is not that they all start screaming, is that the fact that she sleeps without a head and the headless body just like starts walking around the place. Like,
why would you sleep without a head? Like, I don't get it. Like, none of this world makes sense.
just sorry, that was just a really funny question. Why would you sleep without a head?
Is this something you have to recharge? You have to put on like a wireless charger for the night? Like, I don't know. I don't know how this shit works.
I reckon. Yeah, maybe they're all charging ports.
Dorothy just has to like flick a switch and they all die. Like,
plug me into a lightning cable. By the way, with the headless thing, because like we know that the Gnome King, he's like, oh yeah, I gave her a bunch of heads and she was all happy about it. But we also find out that she went to like the stone people that had been turned to stone in Oz and just like decapitated them.
Yeah.
Right? When it showed everyone in Oz turning back to like, at
oh
the
my
end
god,
of the movie, coming back to life, I had the thought, which the film wisely omits, is that like, you know, if all their heads are still back in the thing, like, are these like just gonna become like dead people, like a lifeless, severed, like decapitated corpse, like a bunch of them in a circle just flop to the ground.
That would be so
but
good.
then they get all their heads back, and I was like, how does that work?
That really makes me wish they did that exact same sequence in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when James McAvoy gets turned to stone in like Jadis's garden.
Yeah,
because they do the exact same thing in there where like all the characters are turned to stone. So I'm like, oh, that would be so funny to see like Mr. Tumnus's head just rolling about, just.
Am I going to be James McAvoy today? What mood am I in? Like as like a writing trope or something, or like as like making a creature, the fact that she can't remember, she doesn't have the heads all have different memories.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a fun idea. She put me up here and she hasn't put that head back on, so she hasn't remembered.
Yeah, I like that as a mechanic. Like, that's kind of cool. But you just can't take it seriously. Like, because all the other heads look similar as well. Like, there's not much variety. Like, she's not like she's like gonna be blonde or then like redhead one day. It's like they're all the same bloody face. Like, I was just waiting for Dorothy to walk up to her and be like, nearly headless. How could you be nearly headless? And then just like
this.
and the wood just like oh, actually, you know what?
So
You know what line stood out to me the most in this movie?
What was that?
There's a scene where the Gnome King kind of like stops being a villain at one point. And he's like, you want to have some tea? And then she's like, sure, fuck it. So like, you know, they're waiting in the mountain. He gives them like the best like bloody muffin that he can find. Like, so they're eating some like muffins and she's like, you know, sipping what looks like to be some tea. But then Dorothy says to the Gnome King, oh, what am I drinking? And he says she's drinking hot melted silver.
Tasty.
Hot melted silver, Brenton. Dorothy should be dead.
Yeah. Well, wasn't the cake she was made of, it was like limestone fucking like tart or something? Like limestone?
I'm
like holy shit.
This is just lazy. This is just bad.
Dorothy should be dead. But again, all those characters are for nothing. TikTok is just like, his whole joke is the whole time is that like, I'm literally not alive. Like, you just wind me up and I'm just a machine. And like, that's all he is. And then he starts crying at a point. You're like, oh, he's going to be a bit of a human. And it's going to be like, oh, he was kind of like he was human all along. And that was like, nope, he's still a wind up fucking machine. He doesn't have any personality or do anything. Jack Pumpkinhead, I still can't work out why he's in the movie. His whole point is that at the end he goes mummy to the other girl. Like, that's my actual mummy.
So they don't really know the chicken's there. But like, why is the Gnome King's weakness having a leg laid in him? Like, it makes just no sense.
It's pretty funny though. It's like, take a dump in the fucking Gnome King's throat. Also, the more confusing thing about that end scene is that like literally each of those characters go into that room, right, to select an ornament that the Scarecrow might be.
Yeah. No one chose the fucking emerald jewel that maybe he stole. Like, like how dumb are you?
It's the most obvious thing. It's like, maybe they all thought it was like the end of Indiana Jones and like they weren't meant to choose like the golden chalice or
There's a
whatever.
boulder just rocks up.
That was fucking ridiculous.
You
That was
morons.
like the dumbest shit.
And it's so funny because the way that Dorothy finds it, which is moronic, all of your friends have presumably died. And so like, you know, to have their first kind of guesses. And then Dorothy's best tactic is just to bloody spin in a circle and see where she walks. Like, what are you doing?
It worked out.
But I love that moment where she picks up like the statue of the cat or whatever. And then she feels it. Then she opens her eyes and sees the jewel right next to it. She's like, oh, wait. Like, fuck that. It's clearly the jewel.
Oh. Can I say something that was really creepy though?
Yeah, go for it.
The Scarecrow is fucking horrifying in this movie
Oh
as
my
well. So when
God.
she goes, Oz, and he pops up and he's like, Dorothy! I was like, I had like a seizure. I was like, holy shit, where's his axe? Fuck!
And he's got his like little crown and everything like that. Like,
And his expression like never changes.
No.
It's always stuck
and he's got
in
those
this.
wide eyes as he's like talking to her. Like,
And he's always flopping about, kind of like the Scarecrow does in the first one, but like not as much. So it's like, it's just...
that's just bad.
But Jack Pumpkinhead's fuck. When you see Jack Pumpkinhead going around as well, he's scary as well. Like, if I woke up, like Dorothy does, like she wakes up, she spends a night asleep, and I wake up to Jack Pumpkinhead next to me, my fists start flying. Like, I'm like...
I would squish that pumpkin in a heartbeat. Like, even if I found out he was sentient, I'd be like, nah, mate. Like, the world will no longer have you. Just...
Also, is it funny at the end of the movie that like the nurse gets like arrested for presumably what does she get arrested for? Is it manslaughter because the doctor died?
Probably for letting Dorothy just like drown in a river.
Why is she? No, but she tried to save her. She tried to get in the river as well. Like she was
Yeah.
trying to, like, is it negligence? Is it negligence? But
know.
the child, like, you know, escaped. Like, so, and the kid's okay. So, like, what happened?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe as the building was burning down, like, people kind of just saw, like, all the escaped patients and gone, oh, maybe they're not trying to help him in there. Like, they just saw the evidence of that.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I was just kind of hoping that they'd go the Bridge to Terabithia route, where, like, Dorothy just did drown in the end.
And she's dead.
And she's dead.
The end.
Special segments?
Special segment.
Ooh, so special. All right, Brenton. Normally I'm excited for this. You know, I'm going to bring back up the mood because we got to be in a good mood for this.
Yeah, I've been in a good mood the whole time. I feel bad that you're so down in the dumps about this, and my apologies, but I think it's worth talking about.
It's because also we only did like All About Eve like 2 weeks ago. I'm still on a high from that, frankly, you know, from better films. MCU, Brenton. Let's talk about this. The Avengers have recruited Dorothy Gale and her batch of friends from this movie to join the team. How would that go down?
Okay, so I'm picturing like the final, you know, showdown in Endgame, and these fuckers rock up. So Jack the Pumpkinhead is the first to go. He's just gonna cop, like, what is he gonna offer you? Like, as a team member?
I don't know.
He just kind of sulks around.
Like, would they have the sleigh? Would they have the sleigh before it breaks apart with the moose head?
Yeah, totally. Like, Moose is a sleigh.
Okay. Maybe they could, like, fly above the battle and, like, throw down the jack-o'-lantern kind of head and just, like, have it, like, crush an enemy or something.
I forgot about that scene. When he puts his head over the fucking side to hold the thing together and his head just falls off. Like, how terrifying again as a kid. What is with this movie and, like, 7 heads and heads falling off and putting them back on, and holy shit. And the same thing with the moose. His head keeps coming off as well. Fuck, man. This movie's got a fetish for headless bodies. Holy shit.
Jeez. I think in the Avengers, to be honest with you, first, I don't think the Avengers would let them in. I feel like Dorothy Gale, I feel like they'd be part of, like, their orphan program where they have to kind of, like, take an orphan in or something like that. So Dorothy's the first one to apply, and, like, I don't know. She bullies them into it. So I feel like if Dorothy was on the team, I feel like she'd have her little, like, red slippers and she'd run to the front of the battle. She'd probably click him 3 times, something would happen, but then nothing would, Brenton, and she'd be killed instantly.
What if this happened? Okay, this is gonna be a way better ending to Return to Oz. All right, so the climax of the movie is basically Endgame's happening.
Yeah.
Right? She rocks up on the battlefield and she does what she does at the end of Return to Oz, and she says, "I wish basically all these fuckers would just disappear." And all the other Avengers are like, "No man, like we gotta get the glove and put all the gems in and shit, and then click it, and then like one of us will die." And she's like, "Nah, bitches, I got the ruby slippers." She rocks up on the battlefield, clicks the heels 3 times, and says, "Fuck Thanos and his army, get him the fuck out of here." And then like the same ending of like Endgame happens, but like no one dies, nothing happens, and that's the end.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I would love that.
Wait. The only thing that could possibly like help is that like I think TikTok would be like advantageous on like the battlefield of the end of Endgame.
But he has to stay wound up. You know what I mean?
You just wind him up. A few times. He goes in there and he just starts wailing.
So the Avengers like tag team who has to wind him up? Like they all just kind of like quickly dive behind him for like 2 seconds, like wind him up.
No, Ant-Man's just always there.
Like a hamster wheel. He's just like running on top of it. Like.
And then like TikTok says like, "I'm nearly out of juice, bitch." And then he starts like winding him up like in ant form. Like,
and Paul Rudd's like, "How did I get here?"
Paul Rudd's like, "We need to time travel." And he's like, "No, just tick my talk."
Jesus Christ. Oh, did these characters learn the true meaning of Christmas?
Okay, here's my whole issue with the movie. There's no theme. There's nothing. These characters don't go on any journey.
None of them learn it. I guess Dorothy learns just to shut up about Oz, but like even then, it's like
that's it. That's all she learns. She still thinks she's still fucking insane. She still thinks it exists and is like looking in the mirror. By the way, why the fuck would you want to go back to this Oz? Like, why? Like, you know, at the end of Wizard of Oz, like I was genuinely upset that she had to leave. You know, and she had to go home, and I was like, oh, she made all these relationships, but she doesn't lose them. Wow, holy shit! I just thought of something. Where the fuck are like the 3 farmers?
Yeah, maybe.
Where the fuck are they?
Maybe she killed them all. Who knows?
Maybe when they got like turned to stone or whatever, and like you know,
or their counterparts die as well, something like that. Like
yeah, maybe, or maybe they just got like became redundant,
or maybe just like Dorothy's like, no, you are my best friend Scarecrow, and the guy's like, oh, I don't fucking hang around for this. Like she just probably spooked them off.
Like, look, that's actually a great point. Maybe they were like to the family, like, look, Emily, Henry, we love you guys. You know, you've always, you know, provided a home. We hope that we give you our labor and whatnot. We hope we do a good job. But
we give you our labor.
Your daughter's fucking insane. Have you heard of electric shock therapy?
That would have been. Could you imagine if that was the opening scene? That would have been amazing. Oh, just having a real a real intervention for Dorothy.
You know at the start how like M's like, oh yeah, like someone's sister or some family member's paying for like the treatment. Yeah. Maybe it's like the 3 farmers are like, look, we'll give you 2 months of our wages, right?
Yeah.
And we'll work for free for 2 months if you take this fucking bitch and get her to someone quick. Holy shit.
That would have been so good. That's what I really want. That would have been amazing.
Like to the question though, there was no true meaning to learn.
There's no lesson. Like she doesn't really prove anything to like the farm. I guess like the Gnome King kind of says, oh, you can go back to Oz. No, you can go back to Kansas or rescue your friends. And she says, no, rescuing love and friendship matters most.
Yeah, but that's never been in conflict the whole movie.
And the whole film, they bloody like Philosopher's Stone it where they're like, oh, could it be you're Harry Potter? Blessed by stars, it's Harry Potter. It's like Dorothy, like she's so famous in this one.
Yeah, so she's famous and they're worried about her power or
Yeah.
whatever, even though they know she's got no power because she's got the ruby slippers. But they're more scared of her chicken. But the movie comes confused who it actually wants to be, like who they're actually after. Because they're after the chicken because it can poison the Gnome King. Who gives a fuck about Dorothy? The Wheelers should have just killed Dorothy in the first place,
Yeah.
right? She should never have been taken to the Gnome King. What does the Gnome King gain from getting Dorothy? Just an annoying conversation.
Yeah, so, yeah. He's just really peeved. I was like, I have to babysit this kid now. He's just, I don't want any of that.
Furthermore, what was he going to do with the chicken when it got there?
I don't know, probably cook it, I imagine. Like,
Yeah, but it's poisonous.
okay, well then, I don't know, decapitate it, bury it. Like,
All my minions bring the one thing that is the most poisonous thing that the only thing that could bring me down. Bring that thing directly to me.
it's the same problem the Wicked Witch had of the West. Don't have water in your own bloody castle.
Yeah, don't have a chicken shit down your throat. Like, just don't.
That's the real meaning of Christmas, isn't it? Jeez. I think this segues perfectly into a new segment we want to do, Brenton. On the show we have a segment called We Love Animals. But for this, Brenton, we hate animals.
So I've had to zip my lip this whole episode and not talk about the thing that I hate the most. Billina the chicken
Oh my god.
is the worst character ever.
I agree. Ever. More annoying than Eddie Redmayne in Jupiter Ascending. More annoying than Jar Jar.
The most annoying.
Where do you start with this chicken? Like,
I'll start by saying when I was a kid, it annoyed me then. So she comes back to Oz, right? It was disturbing as a kid being like, holy fuck, the Yellowbrick Road is destroyed. Holy fuck, the Munchkin City's just like decimated. Holy shit, Emerald City's gone. Oh my god, the Tin Man and the Lion of Stone and the Scarecrow's been fucking lynched. Like, oh no. Like, so...
radio.
Radio. So, with that in context, the other thing that was upsetting was Toto's not here. We have this fucking annoying
So
chicken.
here's some Disney exec. Let's replace Toto, one of the most famous dogs in cinematic history, with a fucking chicken. Let's just do that and see if it works. With a talking chicken, no less.
When I started talking, like, even as a kid, I was like, this has got to stop.
And it does that voice where like the actor would have put 2 milliseconds of thought into it. With like, what would a chicken sound like if I could actually talk?
Okay, so I'm looking up the voice cast now because I just have
You
to.
want to know who this person is?
Sorry, Denise Breyer, but you suck.
You suck in this role. Like every word she says, I just wanted to punch the chicken. I wanted it to be decapitated. Like, and she's like, and she also like she weirdly like she's from Kansas, so she's like, we gotta get back to Kansas because I'm a chicken. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Well, Kansas is better than this shithole. What? She acts like some like old kind of frustrated woman who just gets dragged along to the adventure, but like she contributes nothing besides just flying about. Like, and it's by pure sheer luck that she kills the villain in the end. It's like,
I hate that animal. I hate that it was a replacement for Toto. Toto's way better. Fuck Billina. I was glad when she stayed in Oz.
yeah,
And I hated at the end when she said hello to Oswald, or what's her name?
Ozma,
Ozma,
yeah.
whatever her name is, through the mirror, that she was holding the hen. Get rid of that. You know, no one needs it.
we shouldn't have to feel happy. It's a hen. It'll die in like weeks anyway. So it's like,
I would have rather seen any other character with Ozma than the chicken.
Ozma just like takes a bite out of her. Just plot twist, like the chicken's dinner.
I would have rather like seen the Wheeler holding the witch's severed head than seen that chicken again.
Well, here's the good thing, Brenton. You'll never have to see her again.
That's awful, which is weird because like I love animals. I love all animals.
Not this one. Speaking of chickens, let's go to the Battle Royale, Brenton, because Battle Royale is a segment where we get fictional characters from the movies we review to fight it out to the death. So here, I want you to imagine a scenario where Belinda the chicken from Return to Oz fights.
It's Billina, by the way, not Belinda.
No one cares, Brenton.
I do. It doesn't deserve a good name like Belinda. Billina is the
Billina,
name.
Christ. So Billina the chicken, she fights the chickens from Chicken Run. Who would win in that battle?
Well, here's the thing. If we're basing it off like on experience, right? So Billina takes down like a fucking gnome king who's like the equivalent of a god, right?
Only because that was that specific enemy's weakness.
By the same token, if you look at the experience of like the chickens from Chicken Run, they don't really do much. They just escape. They don't.
They're not fighters.
Actually, no. They potentially kill what's her face as
Oh,
well.
Mrs. Tweedy,
Goes
yeah.
in the gravy machine. If we're going on track record, Bellina's got a good track record. But the Chicken Run chickens are more resourceful, right?
Yeah, they build a lot of stuff.
So they got more eggs, right? So they got more chances to poison the Gnome King and figure that.
Yeah,
shit
they built
out.
like an egg gun at one point.
Exactly. So they're good. As far as I'm concerned, if we're Battle Royale, they're facing off against each other. The Chicken Run chickens win every day.
I think
of the
so
week.
too. I think Bellina could maybe like peck one of them to death. Just like at the start, just like fluttering her wings. Because also the claymation chicken runs, they'd be hard to kind of kill in the first place.
The only thing that could go in Bellina's favor is if she brought TikTok along, right? She just has TikTok there because he's not alive. She can have him there. He's an
I
object.
don't know how she's going to wind him with those wings.
She'd just wind him up with the beak and he'd be away. That's the only way they win.
Yeah.
But again, Chicken Run chickens are resourceful. They're patient as well. They just wait for him to go down, and then they'd just kill her. They'd just rip her apart like the wheelers
They
would.
just fuck her up. There you go. All right, let's see what steals this movie.
Ooh, it's blinding. So for you new listeners out there, first of all, thanks for tuning in. Hope you're
Always
having a
love
good
it.
time.
This is the time of the show we say thank you.
But what steals this movie is a segment on the show where Nathan or myself pick a still, a single frame from the film we are reviewing, and we pop it on our social pages, which are, the links are below. And we choose this image on the fact, basically it's a good conversation point.
Good water cooler convo.
Yeah.
There are so many good stills. This still stands out, listeners, because I think it encapsulates the movie well as a whole. Because we got the Gnome King, this revered actor, by the way, who probably did a lot of good work on stage. He's like a really well-regarded stage actor. Forget his name though.
Nicole Williamson.
Yeah, there you go. And he's in what clearly looks like hours of makeup to like be in this like Gnome King costume, and he's got jewels strapped on him. But he's lighting a pipe that he smokes throughout the movie, and the way they've applied this makeup is that he has the most like fiercely red outline around his eyes that are human.
I see what you're saying, but I actually don't think it's red outline. I think it's just he's like the inside of his eyes.
Jesus Christ, that's horrifying if that's his actual eyes.
So they've actually just painted the rock so close to his eyes that like it stands out because like you can see like the flesh around his eyes. Maybe he's having a reaction as well, potentially, because that's a lot of makeup to cake off.
Yeah, it could just be the body just being like, nah, fuck this. How would you smoke in this?
What is he smoking is the question I have. Is he smoking rubies or
Probably
emerald?
sulfur. And that's what steals this movie.
I gotta say, he looks cool. Like when he rocked up, I was about it. He didn't look cool when he showed us his slippers.
Oh god, no.
That was pretty.
Like I like the costume design. You can see there's a lot of work in it, especially that beard. That looks cool.
Like he's got the most expression out of any of the characters in this movie. So good on him. Well done. But then they waste it again because they get rid of this guy like.
And he actually
away.
does nothing. Like his coolest moment's kind of when he's like the giant head before he dies, but that's really it.
How funny is it when Dorothy picks the right one because he's literally just saying in dramatic irony, like just before it, he's like, "Fucking idiot is just gonna like be an object, and I've sorted it. It's gonna be great." And then she picks the right one, and he's like, "How could she have possibly done that?" It's like, well, maybe it was pretty obvious what it was.
Maybe the green emerald might have been a dead giveaway. Like, oh,
fun times.
Well, hey,
let's
look at this film's poster. Banter.
Yes,
Let's look at this film's poster.
but is it art?
Can we just acknowledge the facial expression that Dorothy has in this poster right now?
It is absolutely insane.
This is a terrible poster.
That is terrifying.
In fact, all of them have horrifying facial expressions. It's like a full cast portrait of them on like riding the moose. The only one who kind of looks as though they're having a good time is like the Tin Man and maybe the chicken. You can't really tell with the Jack-o'-lantern because he's got the same face the whole bloody movie. The Cowardly Lion looks like high as a kite.
The one that looks the happiest is actually the moose who's flying. But like if you're looking at this again, you're like, this is the sequel to Wizard of Oz, and you saw like that moose like with the sofas tied together and the leaf wings, like you'd be like, what the fuck is this? Also, this poster is total bullshit. It is like selling something that is not in the movie. Why the fuck? How does the film have the right to put the lion and the Tin Man on the poster?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If I didn't know what this movie was and I saw that lion, Tin Man, and Scarecrow on this movie, I'd be like, that looks nothing like the original ones. So I would divorce this from the poster, saying this is not like the first movie.
I'd also be like, did the Scarecrow just take a hit of sulfur as well? Like, what is going on?
Like, if they needed anything on the poster, all they needed really was like the same iconic shot of the four friends going to Oz down the Yellow Brick Road, but just replicate that with just like a decaying road in a decaying city.
Well, the road's hardly in it, so I don't think that's relevant. In saying all of that, I think this poster captures the weirdness, the wackiness, the horror of this film. Like, it's all kind of there. Like, it kind of encapsulates it, to its credit. Would I hang this on my wall? No. I would not feel comfortable with that on my wall and me sleeping in the same room as it, so...
Title talk.
Ooh, it's the title. Return to Oz.
Did they return to Oz? I guess technically, if you call this place Oz, they returned to it.
And they returned it to its normal form.
That is also true. They did return it. I guess, yeah, title-wise. And also, say this movie was something radically different. Just as a title, Return to Oz, yeah, it's probably what you call a sequel to Wizard of Oz, right?
What about Taking Down the Gnome King?
Wheelin' to Oz.
Chicken Run.
Chicken Run. That'd be amazing. The Wonderful Chicken of Oz.
Yeah, that's not bad. Ozma, the Great and Powerful.
Oh my god.
Or my favorite title for a film, Why It's a Smart Idea Not to Submit Your Child to Electric Shock Therapy.
Yeah, that basic one. Like, jeez.
Should we pass all that power to the people?
pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
Alrighty, so if you go to the tomato meter, you'll see that this film currently has a critical rating of 52% with an audience score of 71%. So a mixed bag all around, mixed bag of jelly beans.
Look, honestly, I think it should be lower, but what makes me happy is the box office stuff, because it cost $28 million to make and it only made 11. So, you know.
Oof.
Take that, Disney.
That's harsh. You know who else is harsh? Rick Chattaneva from Santa Cruz Sentinel gave it a rotten review and said, from just about every standpoint, Return to Oz is competently executed but ill-advised. That's a great sentence. It's hard to imagine whom the filmmakers are trying to reach. It's easier to predict that film goers of all ages will be pretty well turned off. Mate, that was our point. Like, it's not that it's executed, like, necessarily terribly. I had my issues with, like, obviously the characters and the expression and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it comes back to the fact that, like, who the fuck is this made for?
No one, Brenton. That's why, listeners, if you love this, we really want to hear from you. Like, if you champion this movie, please let us know who this is made for, if you're one of them.
Well, hopefully we didn't scare you off, but we'd love to hear from you, genuinely.
Gene Seskel from the Chicago Tribune didn't like it either. Gave 1.5 out of 4. Who wrote, Return to Oz is the kind of movie that encourages people to rent home videotapes of The Wizard of Oz and The Wiz. Yeah.
There you
I haven't
go.
seen Wiz. I hear it's not that good.
Yeah, like, I actually haven't seen the full film either, but I'd be willing to watch it over this.
Yeah,
I think.
same. Oz the Great and Powerful with James Franco. You're like, it's better. It's dramatically better than this. I'll give it that. Like, it's not that
There you
great.
go. You were shitting on it last week as well.
Yeah, I think just in retrospect compared to this film, it makes me want to praise it a little bit more.
Kevin Carr from 7M Pictures, who we've done a few of his reviews before, gave it a positive review, 4 out of 5, and said a forgotten classic.
No, Kevin Carr. Just no.
Well, Daniel K gave it 5 stars and said, classic from my childhood.
If you have any nostalgia comment, that's it, mate.
Jeez, Daniel, I feel sorry for you if this was the highlight.
But that's the thing, like in what we said before, like if this is your movie of like fucked up movie from a kid, like go for it. Like I don't want to shit on that. Like you keep celebrating that. I'm just sorry that this is the one that did it for you. Andrew Soto wrote on YouTube, is it just me or did Dorothy age backwards?
Well, maybe this film isn't a sequel to Wizard of Oz and it's actually the sequel to Benjamin Button.
Oh my god, she's just like getting younger and younger because she acts younger in this one, weirdly.
Yeah.
Like she acts like
Totally.
I don't understand why.
The awesome God Source said a comment on YouTube that I actually agree with. I thought this during the film. I swear, these guys are rejected Mad Max villains. I thought
Probably.
that those wheelers would not be out of place in Mad
And you
Max
know what?
2.
They probably would work better in Mad Max, wouldn't they?
Yeah, totally. I'd be down for
I'm
that.
surprised like George Miller hasn't done something like that where like they mesh the cars and the people together. Maybe in that Furiosa movie we'll get it.
Maybe he watched Return to Oz and it turned him off.
Yeah, that's why there was like, oh, because like, what is it? Mad Max Thunderdome came out like 86, like the year after like Return to Oz.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe he saw that and he was like, enough. Like, we need to step back from this.
Enough's
world.
enough, boys.
Nicole Gagnon wrote on YouTube, no joke, me too. I just explained it to my daughter why this freaked me out so bad. I had night terrors for months, but her generation is completely desensitized.
Wow, that's an interesting point. Do you reckon kids would watch this today and be so desensitized to it that they just
I
wouldn't?
don't think so. I don't, because like as a grown man now, it still scared me. So, and nothing to do with being scared as a kid, by the way.
I agree with you, Nathan. I think this would still terrify
Also, I
kids.
don't support that argument that people sometimes make with generations in the sense that like kids these days, like the bloody kids these days, like they wouldn't get the same shock as they would back then.
I would agree with that. Yeah, totally. I agree with you totally on that.
I could understand the argument that potentially kids are more well read because they have like streaming services and they can probably chew through a lot more. But in saying that, if you've
Sure.
ever had a kid, you'll know that kids normally just pick their favorites and stick to them. Like kids aren't bloody doing what we're doing and making a list of all these titles that they want to like chew through. Kids like find a thing and they'll watch that movie like 100 times. So like I don't think that argument holds up, frankly.
Totally agree. Finally, Jesse New gave a new comment 6 years ago on YouTube and said, I saw this in theaters when it was released in 1985. When the headless girls began to scream and Mombi chases Dorothy, people were getting up and leaving, especially the ones who had little kids with them who started crying. That was, like I said, that was the point that I turned it
There
off
you
as a
go.
kid. It was too much.
Well, they turned it off in the cinemas, Brenton. And here we turn it off because that was The Return to Oz.
Nathan, thank you for putting up with that and getting through this episode. This was truly a horrific episode when you think about it. Like, we did a horrific
It's
film.
Halloween.
You had a horrific time, you know?
It's been a scary year.
But more importantly, guys, like we said before, we want to hear from you and let us know what you think of Return to Oz. Is this a forgotten classic or is this a piece of film history that is just so disturbing and so scary that it just should be forgotten and left in the past.
I want to know if there's a listener out there who this is their favorite movie. They're like, fuck Citizen Kane, this is the one. Like, oh, I want to hear from you especially, please.
Yeah, and give us the reasons why as well. So,
And like, we have great conversations. Like, I love the emails and everything we get from like listeners because there's great dialogue. Because people like do bring genuinely good arguments. So I'm like, great. I love having my mind change on things. So I go for it.
yeah, me too. So get on the Instagram, get on the Twitter, get on the emails, as Nathan said, and also get to those YouTube comments. We love to hear from you guys, especially on our highlights videos. Oh, you guys crack me up.
You're beautiful. We love you all.
And until next week, hopefully we do a better film.
Yeah.
Back to the classics.
Yeah, let's do a classic. Fuck all this nostalgia shit. I want a classic next week. That's the rule.
Okay, you're putting the cudgel down. I appreciate it.
Well, I'll take off the straps, Brenton. I guess I'll let you out of the asylum.
Thank you. I was about to ask. Finally, can you just
Have you been
unstrap me?
comfortable this whole app? Like, I'm so sorry.
Surprisingly, yes. The sound is a bit off-putting, but apart from that, it's all right.
Oh, well, in that case, stay.
No.
Bye, Brenton. Have fun.
Nathan, please don't leave me. Don't leave me with the wheeler in the corner.